Boom with Juan Passarelli. I don't know if I pronounced that well because I think you're from Guatemala, right?
I'm from Guatemala, but my Passarelli is Italian from my dad's side of the family.
Awesome. So thank you very much. I wanted to do an update on obviously Julian Assange because our media here in Switzerland and probably everywhere in the world is not taking this appeal and this trial and this scandal very much seriously. And I thought I was thinking we should obviously try to inform the most we could the public in general. We've talked many times in this podcast about Julian Assange, but there's a crucial date tomorrow and the day after that, Thursday, for the appeal. And I hope then by then Julian will finally be free as he deserves to be for a long time now. So let's have an update with you. You're now in London, is it?
Yes, I'm in London, right in front of the court, actually.
Awesome. So can you please update us on the situation and the latest news? Because last week or the day before, I think they were the breaking news that the CIA planned to assassinate him also. So just put us in touch with the situation right now.
Sure. I mean, it's worth remembering why he is in prison. So back in 2010, WikiLeaks revealed a series of 5 publications, which included a video of a helicopter in the city of Baghdad, Iraq, where this Apache helicopter murdered 11 civilians and wounded 2 children. And within those civilians, there were 2 Reuters journalists. Reuters sought to get that video published for years, and the U.S. refused to, under national security and under national security reasons. But when WikiLeaks revealed it, it was obvious that the reason they didn't want to reveal it is because there was a war crime there. WikiLeaks revealed the rules of engagement at the same time, and with those rules of engagement, it is clear that the U.S. military at that point in time was murdering people, not engaging in the rules of their own war that they had set out. Then WikiLeaks revealed the Iraq and Afghan war logs, which basically are a map of everything that happened in that war. Many important revelations came out of it, including death squads in Afghanistan, torture and black sites, also how young teenage soldiers would decimate an entire family at a checkpoint because the cars were driving too fast. Another soldier that was using Iraqi civilians to walk in front of his car to detect IEDs. So if an IED exploded with the person there, he would know that he could drive there because it was safe. It's absolutely, the crimes that were committed in there were absolutely appalling. This was followed then by Cablegate, which is communications in between the State Department and all the embassies around the world of the US. And it's the biggest comprehensive library of documents that provides information on how the US behaves in different parts of the world. Again, massive crimes were uncovered by it, including the espionage of Ban Ki-moon and other UN officials. They wanted sometimes to find their DNA, fingerprints inside the UN. There was also the famous case of Khalid El-Masri, where the CIA kidnapped him from Macedonia. He was a German citizen, and he was put in a black site, tortured, sodomized, and then it was found out by the CIA that they had the wrong man. They didn't even have the person that they intended to capture. So they left him in at the middle of the mountains in Albania with his passport just to go, make his way back home. he has never received justice in the case, and he was one of the witnesses in Julian's case, a witness that was silenced by the judge in the United States, because the United States did every effort in Julian's case to avoid talking about CIA torture and the many revelations that WikiLeaks revealed. So WikiLeaks changed the world in 2010 and 2011, revealing all these corruption and misgivings of governments of not only the United States, but all around the world, because these documents covered every single country in the world. This offended the United States deep apparatus of government, and they've been after him ever since. So since 2010, late 2010, he's been in one form or another of incarceration, ending up, first he was in house arrest, then he was holed up in the Ecuadorian embassy with asylum, fearing he would be extradited to the United Kingdom. Finally, the weak government of Ecuador gave him to the United States in exchange for a big loan. And ended up, and they kicked him out of the embassy. The British kidnapped him from the embassy into the British territory, and he has been in prison for 2.5 years. Niels Meltzer, the special rapporteur on torture, has concluded that Julian is being tortured as we speak. Every single human right of his procedurally has been broken. He was not able to see his lawyers for 6 months. He read the indictment that against him the day that the hearing was going to be heard back in September, 2020. And with everything stacked against him, his defense played such an amazing role last year that the judge was forced to concede that Julian should not be extradited. Unfortunately, the judge did not concede that Julian should not be extradited because of political reasons, which forbids the UK to extradite anybody under political charges. She did not concede that Julian was a journalist and that everything that he published was in the public interest, something that is absolutely appalling, because now, because of her decision, any single journalist in the United Kingdom that holds documents that are secret of the United States can be extradited to the United States for holding or publishing documents that contain crimes that the US has done if the US considers them secret. So any journalist in the US can face what Julian Assange is facing right now because of her decision. But she did say that Julian should not be extradited because of the poor conditions of the US prisons and the fact that his mental health is debilitated and he could potentially face suicide. So now the United States appealed that decision, and tomorrow, 27th and 28th, we're going to hear the appeal. We're going to hear that the United States is going to put in doubt the medical evidence. We're going to hear the United States saying that they are going to give some assurances that Julian is going to be treated well. He's going to have access to medical facilities and psychiatric help. But we will also hear that the United States reserves the right to change their mind whenever they want to. And the most important part of this incarceration process in the United States is a system called SAM, Special Administrative Measures. Under Special Administrative Measures, these are measures made for Al-Qaeda terrorists so that they cannot communicate to any cell that might act or send any type of information. So Julian would be placed under complete 24-hour solitary confinement. His lawyers would not be able to talk about his case, so we would never hear for him again. And he would literally be in solitary confinement for the rest of his life, isolated from all people. Now, the DOJ is going to say that they are going to try and not put him in SAMS, but The problem is that DOJ is not the one that decides if he is under the Assange regime or not. It is the CIA. And recently, we have this. There was a revelation that the CIA, under former director of the CIA, Mike Pompeo, planned to assassinate Julian in London. Not only Julian, but also WikiLeaks journalists, people very close to me, and maybe including myself, if they suspected that I had the Vault 7 release. So what we're seeing right now, just to summarize it, the court in London is going to have to decide whether to send somebody to the country which plotted his assassination, or whether to uphold his human rights and guarantee his safety. That is, I have not seen, out of the 10 years that I've been following this case very, very closely. I'm the filmmaker that's filmed Julian and the WikiLeaks team the most. I've had the most access to them. I have never seen such a clear decision. Either they're going to send him to the country that planned to murder him, or they're going to uphold human rights. Unfortunately, I cannot tell you that the judges are going to do the right thing and protect him. This is still up for debate. This is a dire situation that we find ourselves in, and something that will definitely affect our future.
Absolutely. I was quite naive, like maybe some years ago, about the justice system, not only in UK, but all over around the world, like in Ecuador or in Sweden. I would have never imagined that the Sweden justice system was corrupted. Do you confirm that, like, if the justice system was properly working, Julian would be out of jail? Well, he would not even have put a foot on jail in the first place.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Can you explain the level of corruption and how it functioned?
So, if you look at the history of Julian's work and Julian's life, and you analyze every single legal case that he's faced, which have been several throughout the years, there is not a single one that has gone in a regular manner. You know, if you compare it to other cases, for example, the Swedish case, no alleged rape investigation is open on the preliminary investigation case phase without charges for 7.5 years. This is a gross misconduct of a speedy justice that is part of the Swedish system. And we know that it was the Crown Prosecution Service in the UK that was making them delay the proceedings. The only thing that they had to do was interview Julian, and he was happy to be interviewed, both in Sweden or in the United Kingdom, as long as that he would not be extradited to the United States. So that's where it began. And then we see from then on that every single case has been manipulated to make it the longest it can possibly be. So he has been in one form or another of incarceration for 11 years. Why? Because he released war crimes of the United States and the United Kingdom. That is it. I mean, but there has been a systematic campaign against him in the United States, in the United Kingdom, in Sweden, in Ecuador, and in Australia, both to systematically make his name dirty, and also systematically try to make every single judicial process last as long as possible before a positive. In the end, he always wins. In the end, Julian always wins his legal cases, but they extend it the most that they can because that makes him miserable. And that is part of the torture that Niels Melzer is talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
So what they have been trying to do is something called punishment by process. So, I mean, if you ask me, will Julian be extradited to the United Kingdom, to the United States? I don't believe that. I think that he will be free before that, because the case is so outrageous, but they will delay it as much as they can because they are torturing him. And everybody in the world can see that he's being tortured.
Yeah.
And this is a message sent to anybody that may want to do what he did. If you want to expose our dirty secrets, you will be tortured to death.
Yeah.
You will be slowly assassinated. That's what the message is for.
We actually had Niels Melzer here because he's Swiss, and we could with length discuss this torture and everything you're confirming now. I think this strategy of making it like very slow and the proceeding last as long as they can has been even showed some. I don't remember. I saw some stuff where someone is saying, make him go country to country for 20 years or something.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What is that exactly? So the strategy is clear. It's like it's not a secret. What they're trying to do is to make it as long as miserable they can, because they know they're going to lose at the end.
So that reference comes from a leak that WikiLeaks did in 2011 of what is called this private CIA, a company called Stratfor. It's a private intelligence company. And they work for different intelligence apparatuses. As well as Stratfor, there was another company called HP Gary that both of them made different plans on how to destroy WikiLeaks. In the case of Stratfor, some of the things that came about is go after the infrastructure, damage his credibility, make him be in judicial process and skipping country by country for 20 years to deplete his energy and resources, attack the banking infrastructure, and also damage the credibility of WikiLeaks by trying to reveal secret documents, leak secret documents. All of these things were tried, and WikiLeaks has survived all of them. WikiLeaks survived the banking blockade. Julian and WikiLeaks have survived every single court case, and I'm talking court cases all over the world. WikiLeaks, I think, has something like 160 lawyers across the world working in different legal issues. The campaign against Julian, in terms of trying to make him look like a monster in the eyes of the public, has been incredible. There has been so much misinformation, and they have tried to make Julian the center of the story instead of the crimes that he's been revealing.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you highlight maybe some links and evidence of political interference with the justice? Because it's easy to say the justice is corrupted, but how do they interact to, for instance, for the last Judge Baritza to act as disgustingly as she did? How does it work in terms of action? How does the link is made?
Well, I mean, it is important to realize that Vanessa Baritza is the junior judge. The senior judge supervising the case is Emma Arbuthnot, a person that was found by a declassified UK, a British media, to have severe conflicts of interest. She had received money from the Foreign Office to go to different forums and events. Her husband worked as a foreign minister for a while. Her son owns a company that literally creates anti-WikiLeaks software, anti-whistleblower software. And this is the judge that was placed to overlook the case of Julian. So right at the beginning, you see that there is a complete corruption of the case. Then you see that this Vanessa Breitzer, she is a ghost. We don't know anything about
I've
this
looked
woman.
A lot, found nothing on her.
She's professionally erased her history and her life from the internet. We find out that in between February, the first part of the February 2020, the first part of his hearing, up to September, because of COVID situations, Julian does not get to see his lawyers for 6 months. So he has not been able to prepare his case. And then literally 3 weeks before the case, the United States puts another indictment. They remove the indictment that they had before and they put another one. And this indictment does not get to Julian until the day of the court hearing. So he read what he is being accused of the day that he was going to court. How can that be a defense of somebody? The entire case has been corrupt.
No,
and if you look at the decision, you look at several MPs that ministers of parliament that have raised their voice and concerns at the decision of Breitzer. The political extradition aspect is extremely dangerous, because there is a law in Britain that says that nobody can be extradited for political reasons. And this woman not only misread the law, misinterpreted, and really made a complete blunder out of the laws of concerning this subject.
So you think that the way for politicians to create this masquerade is to place the right judge or the right people so the theater starts? Or because how is the process of go ahead.
That is assuming things. The only thing I can tell you is the things that happened. I cannot tell you how the system works inside, but I can tell you that it is obvious that there was a conflict of interest between the senior judge. We know that the decisions made by Vanessa Breitzer are in a big case wrong. I cannot tell you if the courts decided to put them to actually,
but that's what I'd like to know. Like, is there by chance that they finally had this judge, and then it happened to be a conflict of interest, so they seized the opportunity to make a mess? Or like, is there a wish like to put the people that they know will make everything go awry? It's hard to say. There's no evidence in that. And lately, no evidence in that, and we don't know. Lately, we don't know if it's a good news or bad news, but apparently one of the judges that is going to sit tomorrow and the day after is a judge that already impeached the justice system to send Lori Love, I think, to be extradited to USA. And it's to be said that he's a very respectful and powerful judge. What is your take on that? Do you think this, because it changed also, it was supposed to be someone else. So that's where my question as a curious person is like, who decide who sits when and where? And that I can find no answer to that. Who decide what judge is working there on the case?
I mean, to assume that there is absolutely no independence in the judicial system, I think is a little bit, I can't say that.
Okay.
I can't, but that they're, that there has been irregularities in the case. There has been dozens and dozens of irregularities, and one or two you start to think, okay, maybe coincidence, but the amount of irregularities in Julian's case. I've even come up with a saying, which is, there is always a Julian Assange exception to every norm. Because, I mean, every time that a decision is made, actually, for me, it's unexpected. I don't even know what to think. So right now, for me, in this case, I don't have an expectation. I cannot say if they're going to, and it's very important that we see the scope of this. I cannot say if this is gonna be a positive or negative thing, but we are talking about sending a man to the country that planned to murder him. And I mean, supposedly this is a country that is a democracy that respects human rights, and I cannot say that they're not going to do that. You know, I hear good things about the judge, but the Lori Love's case is completely different than Julian Assange's case. So the idea that there is still Assange exception to every norm, I think, is correct.
Yeah, unfortunately. And are you hopeful that one day, maybe when all that is over, we will have a chance to prosecute all the bad faith actors like Baritz, Abarknot, and all these, like, clearly I'd say evil, it's a bit far stretched, but like interested, corrupt, and inhumane human beings, if I can say that.
I mean, I think that we need to strive for justice.
Yeah.
And we need to strive for transparency and the values that Julian promoted. These are to continue to uncover things that are done in our name that are crimes, that are misgivings, that are things that we should not that we should know about what people are doing with our vote, with our tax money, and we as a society should be able to decide. You know, yes, it's true, in my opinion, that there should be a lot of prosecutions on all the war criminals, on all the corrupt politicians that have been exposed by WikiLeaks, and also on the corrupt people that have gone after Julian and persecuted him for years. Now, but this is not for me to say. This is something that the justice system should strive for. And once Julian is out, the fight doesn't continue there. The fight goes on for the rest of our lives, because democracy is not something that is granted to us. Our civil and human rights, they are something that we have to fight for every single day, because if we don't, we lose them. And we're seeing this very clearly in the last 10 years. There's been a censorship that has become more and more and more almost strangulatory in the internet and in the private social media platforms. And this is something that we need to continue to fight for, so that we are able to continue having these debates like we're having with you and me right now.
Yeah. Can we come back on the CIA plan of assassination? Because the first time I read the story, I was not very surprised, to be honest, but surprised that it could go out, and like information are still coming out years after, sorry. And the first time Pompeo was asked about it, he laughed and said, "You should not believe whatever you hear from these journalists and everything." But now it seems that it's not one journalist, but 30 journalists who are saying that. And now Pompeo is threatening these people to be prosecuted. Is that for you, in French we say un aveu so I don't know in English how to say that, like a way to admit that actually they're right? Because if you want them to be prosecuted, it's because obviously they're saying something true.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. And 30 sources. I would think that 30 sources would be quite a good number to make sure, to be sure that this is a story that is confirmed. You know, this is a very well done piece of investigation by Yahoo News. And I think the most important part of this story is that back in 2017, when WikiLeaks revealed Vault 7, which is a series of it exposed the cyber warfare capabilities of the CIA, including that they can turn on and off your telephone and computer microphones and your cameras, and they can hack into cars, and they can hack into anywhere they want and make it look like it was someone else, like Russian intelligence or Chinese intelligence. So the CIA was very embarrassed about this. Furious actually when it happened. It's the biggest leak the CIA has ever had, and Pompeo responded with the force that you'd expect from the CIA. And what they did, which is unprecedented and completely outrageous, is that the denomination that Pompeo made in his first speech as the CIA director, he called WikiLeaks, he dedicated the speech to WikiLeaks, and then he called WikiLeaks a non-state hostile intelligence agency. This at the time for everybody was like, funny new term. We knew that this was a legal and political maneuver, and now we know why. Because by denominating WikiLeaks espionage, a spy agency, they can do actions against it without any political oversight. They did not have to report to Congress or Senate committees what they were doing to WikiLeaks. And that's how they managed to create a system where they were making sketches and options as to how to murder Julian and other journalists of WikiLeaks, other European journalists of WikiLeaks that may have had access to Vault 7. And if you think about who those people are, I mean, they're good friends of mine. It could even be me if they thought that I had Vault 7. I was with Julian constantly throughout that year. So it is a very scary thing to think that the CIA might be assassinating your friends or even you for what? For supposedly, because they think that you might have documents that they think that you shouldn't have. This is outrageous. This is journalistic work, you know?
Mm-hmm. What is even more outrageous is that it doesn't seem to be mirrored in the mainstream media. Yahoo News is quite big, to be honest. But why do you think the media in general are not covering? Do you think that they just bought into the propaganda that Julian was a bad faith actor, and then they're not interested? Or do you think there's like a more sophisticated thoughts of the non-cover rage?
Well, there is definitely an extremely sophisticated apparatus to give misinformation about Julian, and this is an apparatus that covers all many agencies of the U.S. government, the U.K. government, Australia, Ecuador, Sweden. The CIA has a psychological warfare apparatus that is fantastic. So it is no surprise that Julian has ended up with the public image that he has, because you can turn anybody into a monster if you repeat lies over and over again, especially in the sophisticated ways that they do. The mainstream media are, first of all, they are private, oligarchic institutions. So we have to remember that they are part of the establishment, and I'm talking about the editorial decisions of these big news organizations, and the journalists that work in them. There's a whole bunch of really good journalists out there, but they're also overworked, underpaid, and they don't really have the time to follow such a complicated story. So it is very easy to see that they feed themselves with the same misinformation that is fed through this mainstream media society. So you end up with a whole bunch of journalists that are actually ignorant because they follow the news of the buddies, their buddies, and the you know, often false information that they are promoting. So it's a delicate situation what the mainstream news has become, and well, also many misinformation strands of the internet. But this is a phenomenon that has been, it's not a new phenomenon. This is a phenomenon that we've lived through for years and years. The reason why the mainstream news does not report as much as they should is because they feel they are different. The US government has managed to drive a wedge in the representation of Julian and what they are as institutional journalists. And there is a cognitive dissonance. I've talked to many of these journalists who actually say, by prosecuting Julian, you are removing freedom of the press to the press, and then they're going to come after other journalists. But when you ask them, when the next Chelsea Manning comes, would you publish or would you be scared because this might happen to you? And there is a disconnect. You see a disconnect, a social dissonance situation where a lot of them say, "Yeah, well, I'll publish." Oh yeah, but they haven't seen what I've seen. I think in terms of what will happen. These governments are moving really fast, and they're trying to completely annihilate national security reporting and any type of reporting that really is they consider harmful because it exposes wrongdoing.
Yeah, yourself you're a journalist and also a filmmaker, and you're now involved for a long time with WikiLeaks. Can you drive through a little bit of your work with WikiLeaks and your work as a journalist, what you're trying to do, what you're covering? Maybe if you faced threats, because that's what they are trying to do with journalists as courageous as you are. Do you feel the pressure and all in all?
I've lived close to Julian throughout all the period of the embassy and the years before, when there was the big publications of 2010 and 2011. And I was with him close till he was arrested. I saw how the embassy became from a little safe haven that President Rafael Correa created to a biggest nightmare, where anything that anybody did could potentially make Ecuador kick him out or treat him worse or remove any type of permission or anything inside the embassy. So his world became a really small world controlled by a private mercenary company called UC Global, which was working for the CIA and spying on Julian and trying to record all his legal conversations and trying to monitor all his conversations to see if they could find any of the sources of the leaks, etc. And by being in there, you realize how much it affects not only him, but it affects you as an individual. It's a pressure. It's a pressure cooker. It's like you put the cooker with the water boiling, and you're in this small space and everything is outside attacking you, including what we now know because of the Yahoo
Yeah, Yahoo.
article. There, everyone in a 3-block radius was working for a security apparatus. So this is absolutely ridiculous, and we were living under this, the most surveilled place in the world, in a daily fashion, knowing that every word that we spoke was being recorded, because every one of us has one of these little things. So we had to be extremely careful in the way we conducted our journalism.
You are now a part of a team, I would say. The team, I don't know how you call it, the team Assange. There's now journalists like you who are dedicated. You have WikiLeaks, you have Stella also. How is the confidence of the team? How do you work together? How is it working?
Oh, when you've lived through what I've lived through, you don't just stop and quit, For me, this is something that we started. I was a small part in something that changed the world many times, and we have to continue doing it. We're at the forefront of making sure that our right to speak and our right to know are respected in our society, which is supposed to be a democratic society. Without information, without being able to know what our governments do in our name, we can't decide as a society where we want to go. So, I mean, for us, there is no alternative. There is no alternative. There's nothing else I could dedicate myself to at this moment, especially at this moment when a friend of mine is being tortured. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel lucky that I'm able to work every day and contribute every day towards his freedom. But there's a big team of people that will not stop, and we will win. We've always won.
Yeah.
WikiLeaks has always won, and this is what makes these intelligence agencies, the military-industrial complex, all those enemies of the darkest parts of society that are scared of what WikiLeaks has done and that what could continue to do, are so angry about. They're so angry because WikiLeaks has won every single time. And it will continue to win.
Yes. The general narrative is now the journalists are afraid to speak the truth and all and all. I think that may be true for careerists or for some journalists in high places. But in the general theme, I think one of the best legacy of Julian Assange is to have motivated thousands, if not millions, of people to actually get their ass off the chair and go find the truth themselves. And that's true for me, for instance. I'm not sure this podcast will ever exist if Julian Assange wasn't of this world. So I suspect that the strategy of dragging it make people realize more and more that we cannot trust the traditional ways of information, and therefore that we have to all take our responsibility. And I see this already as a big win, because I think the curtains had fallen because of Julian Assange, and tomorrow is never going to be as yesterday was without Assange. What do you think on that?
This is a big fight. You have to. There's no retreat, because if we retreat, we don't lose only the life of a man. We lose our life. We lose our freedom. We've come so far as a society to gain these freedoms, gain equal opportunities, gain civil rights for everybody, gain the ability to speak the ability to move freely as much as it is possible with these, we still have borders and passports that are better than other passports, but um, in the West, we have managed to become a society which parts of the society are civilized and want peace and want a society that is more fair. If we stop, we lose all that. We will lose. If Julian goes to prison, it's like we are all gonna end up in prison.
Yeah.
Maybe not all of us, but the people who stand out, the people who create dissent, the people that threaten power will most likely end up in the same place that he does. So that's why we have to stand for him, because it's not, I always say to people that maybe don't like Julian or criticize Julian, I say, fuck Julian. It's not about him, it's about you in the end. Yes, for me, it's the life of a friend of mine, but for everybody else in the world, it's not about him. He represents the future of the Western world, the European world, the American world, the Latin American world, and how we're gonna go. We're gonna go in an authoritarian manner where people go to jail for what they say, or are we gonna return to a more democratic society by fighting and making sure that the law is upheld, and continue to be able to speak freely,
Yeah, and that's why we call it the case of the century, I think, because you are exactly pointing out the severity and the importance of that case. So you said earlier you don't really expect anything because everything is so particular in Julian's case that you better not have too many expectation, I guess. But 2 days are coming, and I just had the chance before we started to hear that you will have an access, or are you going to have an access?
Yes. Well, yeah. As many other journalists, well, I say many on quotes because every single journalist in the world should be connected to this courtroom right now. But there is definitely a lack of mainstream reporting. There is some, and it has grown, and actually the propaganda apparatuses are not able to work that well anymore because the case is so outrageous against
Obvious,
Julian, that even his enemies are starting to have to support him. But yes, I'll be reporting from my Twitter account, which you can see on the Zoom. I would imagine you can see it as JL Passarelli in Twitter.
We'll put it on the video description. We'll put it.
I'll be reporting what happens live.
Yeah, that's great. And I've heard, I think that was Reporter Without Border, or I'm not sure who said that she went to many undemocratic countries and she could have access to the courts to witness the case in many countries, but London appear to be worse, and they can't not have access. What is it for before and for these 2 days to come? Organization NGO can access and do their work.
Well, I'll tell you what's happened in September. There were 40 organizations of monitoring organizations that were going to come in, including Reporters Without Borders. The person you're referring to is Rebecca Vincent from Reporters Without Borders, Amnesty International, several MPs from Switzerland, from Germany, from France, from Ireland, ministers of European Parliament, and just observers. In every big case, there's usually observers. They go to different countries like Egypt and even Bahrain and other countries, and they report on what they see and make sure that the court proceedings are are fair and that the procedure is respected. In the case of Julian in September, the judge, Vanessa Breitzer, decided to not allow any of the observers into the court.
And when she did, it was not, the quality was so poor that they could not even hear or listen to anything.
No, actually, they never were able to. The people that you're talking about are the actual journalists that were allowed.
Okay.
So monitors like Amnesty International, they were never allowed in.
Wow.
Rebecca Vincent from Reporters Without Borders was the only monitor uh, that was able to cover the hearing, and that was because she started to queue outside court at 5 in the morning every day to be able to get into court in one of the, I think there were 4 or 5 spots for the public. So she went as a member of public. There were 5 places for the public to see the proceedings. Now, this is because the judge was trying to make this hearing, as secret as possible. And I think the judge and the judiciary made a fantastic effort out of it, because it was, I mean, the streaming service that they gave the journalist was awful. I have never seen a group of technicians so incompetent as the court technicians. And I am a technician myself, so I can tell you, without the resources of the courts, I can do a much better job with open source software compared to the Microsoft Teams stupidity that they use. And but this is
so that was deliberate.
Is the same as what they have been trying to do to Julian. By bureaucracy, they make it harder on everybody that is trying to monitor, to make sure that the procedure is done correctly, and if not, to report it.
Yeah.
So, I've been writing for months to the court to get access.
They don't care.
No journalist got access to the court until an hour ago when we started talking. I received the email saying, this is 12 hours before the hearing. I received an email saying, okay, I can get in to watch the bloody thing. But I know that there are journalists that did not travel to London because they were not sure if they were going to be able to get in. This is secrecy by bureaucracy. That's what it is.
Yeah. And anyway, if you travel to London, you need to quarantine for 10 days. So that's another fuck up. So I booked my flight, but I cannot come because otherwise I'll just have to stay in one place. So it doesn't make any sense. So you need to, but that's another problem. And for tomorrow and the day after, do you think it's going to be different or the usual?
Oh, it's going to be interesting, definitely. I mean, the United States is going to try to guarantee that they're going to give Julian...
yeah, but I mean in terms of access before the content. In terms of access?
I think the access is probably already settled. I have not gone on to Twitter to see if there was any journalist that didn't get in. You'll be able to... if you follow on Twitter, Free Assange and that, you'll probably quite quickly realize who was able to get in or not. But I would imagine there's going to be issues as usual.
Let's see if the United Kingdom power is able to actually turn on the fucking sound. That's nuts. That's absolutely nuts. So okay. So the thing that are going to be discussed tomorrow and the day after are only the health and capacity of the US to extradite Assange safely, or anything else will be discussed as well, because they could steer this discussion in a bad direction.
Mental health and prison conditions in the US. That's the only 2 points that are going to be discussed.
Okay, so we cannot...
Those are the points that Vanessa Breitzer decided not to extradite Julian on. Which, to be honest, is shameful, because she should have given Julian the ability not to be extradited for releasing documents that were of
Yeah.
public interest. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
So this is not going to be discussed anymore, on at least not tomorrow and the day after. But would that be rediscussed again? Because Barrett's judgment is ridiculous, and now we're talking about only his half, which is important, but it's not. Again, it's not the substance of the whole case. Is like murders, like war crimes. It's so much more horrible, and now we here discussing something who really is not the core of the problem.
Yeah, yeah, that's absolutely right. I mean, in broad terms, what we are seeing right now is someone who revealed the most important and life and world changing information about the last 20 years of the war
Yeah.
on terror, and him being punished with the prospect of being 175 years in prison in the United States for revealing those documents. I mean, there's that's as simple as this case gets.
Sure.
And not only that, now we know that that same state, the United States, planned to assassinate him, planned to murder him
Simple as that.
in central London, right beside the Harrods. Can you believe that? This is just...
It's unbelievable, and then it happens so much that you're like, well, I'm not even surprised, because apparently they're ready to go as far as anything. So it's really, it's beyond words, to be honest. So okay, so what are the hopes for Julian to be free in 2 days?
No, impossible. The decision will be taken 4 to 6 weeks, they say. I wouldn't be surprised that they take longer. So tomorrow and the day after that, it's just a procedural thing, and then the judges will go deliberate for a long time. And then after the deliberation, there will be an appeal, most likely on either side. So if Julian wins, the United States is most likely going to appeal, and the same will happen if Julian loses. The defense will appeal on his name. This will probably then end up in the either again in the High Court or the Supreme Court as a last instance in the United Kingdom, and then the court the case may continue up to the European Court of Human Rights. So again, it's punishment by process. During this time, Julian is isolated 23.5 hours a day in a supermax prison designed for murderers, and he's an intellectual that has never committed any crime, and they are just extending the judicial process as much as they can. In fact, somebody who is on remand, but according to the European Convention of Human Rights, cannot spend more than 2 years in prison. Julian's been in prison for 2.5 years on remand. So again, there's an Assange exception to every norm.
Absolutely. I have the information that Richard Medhurst just announced that he has been accredited. So that's good. He's a very good journalist from Syria, I think. He's Syrian.
Yeah.
He's absolutely great. Hope to have him some days here. Are you still in touch with Julian Assange in a way or another? Can you write to him? Can you talk to him? No.
I mean, I sometimes hear from Stella how he's doing. You know, we send our love to him, but there's a very limited amount of people that can talk to him, and that's lawyers and family, really. I'm gonna have to head out, my friend.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that was great to give us an hour already, and I hope we could have you again, maybe to discuss other work you do as a journalist. I'm sure you've covered many interesting story that needs to be told, to inform people. That's what you do. That's what Julian do. That's what everyone that is on the side of truth should do. So thank you very much for your
Thank you.
courage.
I just want to end with, you know, I don't know if your viewers are interested in cryptocurrencies, but right now with the bounty that is coming, you know, the Bitcoin has raised
Yeah.
quite massively.
Yeah.
There must be quite a lot of your audience that might be investing. I want you to remember that WikiLeaks survived the banking blockade by accepting Bitcoin back in 2011. So if you're getting your profits in Bitcoin, you know, please consider getting part of those profits and going to wikileaks.org/donate, because these proceedings are very expensive. You know, maintaining your human rights and your right to speech is something that is an expensive deal, especially when you're fighting the biggest power in the world. So, you know, just grab a little bit of your profits and send them that way. You're not going to regret it.
Yeah. How else can the public get involved and help the situation for the better?
Well, I really dislike that question because there is no good answer. You know what I mean? Apart from sending money, the only thing that you can do is get involved. You know, read as much as you can, become critical, talk to other people about it, and discuss these issues, discuss everything that is happening in the world, and go to wikileaks.org and study what has happened in history. WikiLeaks is the great library of Alexandria of the 21st century. You know, our entire modern history is there for us to be able to analyze on every single subject there is, on the environment, on migration, on the wars, on everything that is big and that we care about this world. It is there. So if you're interested in any of those subjects, go and study what has happened behind closed doors in those issues. And go to protests, you know, speak out, make your YouTube channel, or, you know, tell YouTube to fuck off and go somewhere else and do it somewhere else. Just be involved, you know?
Awesome. Well, Juan Passarelli, thank you very much for your fearlessness, for your struggle, for our struggle, because I think Julian's struggle is our struggle of us all. And hope for the best. Thank you to all the team that is working for you to free Assange. And keep in touch in the near future, I hope.
Thank you. Great to see you, mate. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Cheers.